This will call the hearing to order. The Assembly Transportation Committee is now called to order. Madam Secretary, please establish a quorum.
Frazier.
Here.
Ashajian. Baker. Bloom.
Here.
Campos.
Here.
Chu.
Here.
Daly.
Here.
Dodd.
Here.
Eduardo Garcia. Gomez. Kim.
Here.
Linder. Medina.
Here.
Melendez. Nazarian. O'Donnell.
We have a quorum. So what we'll do is a little housekeeping right now. The measures on consent: ACR 58, ACR 63, ACR 65, ACR 78, ACR 84, SB 719, SCR 2, SCR 12, SCR 22, SCR 23, SCR 24, SCR 27, SCR 28, SCR 30, and SCR 38. Would any of the members like to remove any of the items from the consent calendar? We have a first and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the consent calendar.
Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker.
Aye.
Baker, aye. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Chu.
Aye.
Chu, aye. Daly.
Aye.
Daly, aye. Dodd.
Aye.
Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Gomez. Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Linder. Medina.
Aye.
Medina, aye. Melendez. Nazarian. O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye.
3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
The consent calendar has 11 votes. We'll keep the roll open for absent members. For now, we'll move on to Senate Bill number 34. Mr. Senator Hill, please. Good afternoon, Senator.
And members, SB 34 establishes a reasonable privacy and transparency requirement for the use of automatic license plate readers, which can scan up to 2,000 license plates a minute. The technology is used primarily by law enforcement agencies, and it's also used by various private companies, such as parking and repossession businesses. License plate readers have become a useful component of modern policing, but the increased use of this technology has raised concerns over civil liberties and privacy. While at least 7 other states have passed laws governing the use of license plate readers, current California law has not kept up with the rapid adoption of the technology. Current law addresses license plate reader use by the CHP and transportation agencies, but it ignores local law enforcement and private uses. SB 34 updates California law to fix this deficiency. The bill requires a public agency considering the use of license plate readers to provide an opportunity for public comment at a regularly scheduled public meeting of its governing body. Under the bill, public and private entities that use license plate readers must adopt a privacy policy and post it on their website. The policy must contain critical issues laid out in the bill, such as how the license plate readers will be used and how long the data will be kept. The bill also requires operators to keep a record of when license plate reader data is accessed, including the purpose for accessing the data. Lastly, organizations that store license plate data must protect data with reasonable security safeguards in order to both ensure the data's integrity and confidentiality and protect the data from unauthorized access or disclosure. The bill takes reasonable steps to make sure Californians' civil liberties and privacy are respected and protected while still balancing law enforcement's ability to use license plate readers to catch criminals. SB 34 is supported by the California Civil Liberties Council, Conference of California Bar Associations, and Small Business California, and has no opposition.
Thank you. Any members of the public that are here to testify in support of the bill? Any members of the public that are here to testify in opposition of the bill? Seeing none, we have a motion by Medina and
Mr. Chairman.
second by Chu. Do you have any questions from the committee? Ms. Baker.
Just briefly, thank you, Senator Hill. I will be abstaining today. This is coming to privacy committees. I understand there'll probably be an in-depth conversation about the privacy matters. I serve on privacy and will benefit from that conversation as well. But I did want to ask what interactions you may have had with Highway Patrol and law enforcement in particular to see if this impedes in any way for purposes of transportation and law enforcement. And did they in the process suggest any amendments? I know that there's no opposition on file. I'm just curious what your conversations were and feedback they gave you.
Certainly, thank you. Well, the Highway Patrol actually comes under previous legislation, SB 1268, by submitting in 2010, which sets some regulations in terms of the use. They can keep the information currently for 90 days, and unless there's a particular use for it, they've actually asked to be included in this bill because they felt that if other agencies are doing it, this actually tightens it for them, and some of the issues that we're describing related to the privacy are not included in their policy. The transportation agencies, such as bridge tolls, when they take the picture, there is 4.5 years is the time frame. So with the Highway Patrol, they've been very helpful, and they want to be included in this legislation. Thank you.
Any other questions of the committee members? Yes, sir. Ms. Sajian?
Mr. Hill, has there been any amendments recommended at this time?
Amendments to the recommended?
Yes.
Yes, there have been some recommended amendments by the private companies, Vigilant, which is a company that does provide this license plate reading service, and we've looked at them, and some of them actually look very promising, and we're going to be working with them to see if we can integrate those before it comes to the privacy.
You would be considering, because I'm interested in a bill, and I'll support it today to help you move it forward.
Thank you.
But from that point on, we'll be interested to see what kind of amendments we'll include before it comes to the Assembly floor. Very good. Thank you very much, Assembly Member.
Was there any other questions from the committee to the author of the bill? Would you like to close?
Respectfully ask for an aye vote, members. Thank you.
Senator Hill, today I'll be supporting your bill, and good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you.
Madam Secretary,
Appreciate that.
call the roll, please.
The motion is a due pass to the Assembly Committee on Privacy and Consumer Protection. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker. Baker not voting. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Gomez. Kim. Kim not voting. Linder. Linder, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Nazarian. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
That bill has 10 votes. We'll leave the roll open for absent members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you
As
very
it
much,
moves out.
members. Thank you, Patrick.
So we'll move on to item number 7, SB 64. Senator Liu. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members, or good afternoon. I
Good afternoon.
lost track of time. Anyways, I've asked for your support on SB 64. This bill requires the California Transportation Commission to review updates of the California Transportation Plan and prepare specific recommendations to improve the statewide transportation system. I want to thank the committee staff for their analysis, and I accept the amendment on page 2 to add a requirement that the CTC annual report include specific action-oriented and pragmatic recommendations. I also want to thank the committee chair for your request to join me in being added as a co-author. This bill is a follow-up to SB 391, which I authored in 2009. SB 391 required updates of the CTP to address how the state will meet its transportation infrastructure and mobility needs while also achieving greenhouse gas reduction targets. The CTP is a statewide long-range transportation strategy that guides discussions and investments. The plan is updated every 5 years. Pressure on the statewide transportation system will increase. At the same time, the state must find ways to reduce greenhouse gases and keep people and goods moving. Currently, the plan provides a wide range of general recommendation. SB 64 requires the CTC to make more focused, specific recommendations to the legislature and the governor. This list will help legislators author bills and make policy changes. The legislature already receives recommendations on other policy areas from the LAOs and Bureau of State Audits. The CTA is well suited to carry out a similar task, particularly as the latest CTP is being completed. There is no opposition, and I ask for your support on this bill.
Any members of the public like to testify in support of the bill? Seeing none, any members of the public like to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, any members of the committee have any questions of the author? Senator, would you like to close?
I simply ask for your aye vote.
Senator Liu, your bill is timely, and we're on the cusp of some really big changes in transportation, as you know. Some I like, and some I'm not real sure about. I regularly rely on advice and counsel from the CTC and think the idea of asking them to regularly report to us with specific legislative recommendations will be extremely helpful, and this will be part of that process. As mentioned, I'd be honored to be added as a co-author with you on this bill. And with that,
Great.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is a do pass as amended to...
Excuse me. We did have a first and a second. And it was Dodd and Garcia. I just want to get that on the record.
The motion is a do pass as amended to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Frazier?
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian?
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom? Aye. Bloom, aye. Campos? Aye. Campos, aye. Chu? Aye. Chu, aye. Daly? Aye. Daly, aye. Dodd? Aye. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia? Gomez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. Linder? Aye. Linder, aye. Medina? Aye. Medina, aye. Melendez? Aye. Melendez, aye. Nazarian? O'Donnell? Aye. O'Donnell, aye.
That has 13 votes. We'll keep the roll open for absent members.
Thank you very much, members. Thank you.
Senator Pan, SB 530. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. SB 530 is a measure that will define pedal-powered pedicabs in statute. Say that quickly, multiple times, and establish minimum safety requirements to allow these businesses to operate successfully. Pedal-powered pedicabs are multi-passenger bicycles that rely solely on human power for momentum. This is a relatively new activity that is green and safe, as evidenced by the success of these small businesses. These small businesses currently operate in Sacramento, San Diego, Santa Monica, and Palm Springs, but also have been operating in other states and around the world for more than a decade. However, California does not have uniform regulations governing the operation and safety requirements of these vehicles. As a result, new small businesses have struggled and have even been prevented from operating due to regulatory absence, confusion, and limitation. Multiple pedal-powered operators have gone out of business due to over-regulation by cities that have never encountered these types of vehicles before. SB 530 provide regulatory clarity and uniformity, as well as minimum safety standards that will lend themselves to successful operation of these innovative small businesses to grow here in California. SB 530 would require municipalities to actually pass a local ordinance permitting the operation of these vehicles and designate a local transportation authority to inspect the vehicle. Municipalities can choose to expand on these provisions and designate where they're permitted to operate. And also, just to clarify, unlike pedicabs, these bikes are currently required by their local governments to show proof of insurance in order to obtain a business permit. SB 530 would leave the specific insurance provisions up to individual municipalities. SB 530 passed with unanimous bipartisan support in the Senate and is supported by a wide coalition of small businesses across California. And here to testify in support are Jason Blessinger, co-owner of Off the Chain from Sacramento, and I also have Alex Gibb here who's present to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Or good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jason Blessinger. I'm the owner-operator of Off the Chain Bike Bus Tours here in Sacramento. We started in December of 2014. We ran into a little bit of obstacles in Sacramento because the local city didn't know how to, I guess you'd say, give us a business permit for it. So we didn't know if we were a pedicab or a charter party service, which brought a lot of confusion. So we decided to join partnership with Downtown Partnership here in Sacramento to do a project to enhance local residents to come down to Sacramento Midtown and downtown areas, which helped solidify our business permit. But the obstacles are really basically there's no uniformity in actually mandating of how these quadricycles are formally mandated and governed by the local governments or the state. So we really wanted to kind of support this bill of 530 to increase some sort of like uniformity of how these pedicycles are operating. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Assembly Transportation Committee. My name is Alex Gibbs from Townsend Public Affairs and also here representing Off the Chain. And I will just be here to answer any technical questions you may have. Thank you.
Any other members of the public like to testify in support of this bill? Seeing none, any members of the public that like to testify in opposition to the bill? Please state your name and who you represent, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Sheehy, representing the California Police Chiefs Association. Our opposition doesn't lie with the definitions that exist in this bill. It rather lies with what we believe is going to be the significant increase in the public consumption of alcohol. This bill allows local authorities to authorize onboard alcohol consumption by passengers of pedicabs, and the California Police Chiefs Association is strongly opposed to any efforts to expand public consumption of alcohol. We do not believe that the permitting local jurisdictions to authorize pedicab passengers who are actively pedaling a moving, often open vehicle on public roadways will serve the public safety interests of Californians. And it's for these reasons that we must oppose SB 530. We appreciate you considering our viewpoint. We're happy to answer any questions. Generally, we're not against the idea of an open vehicle moving as contemplated, but we think combining that with alcohol is just a really bad combination.
Any questions of members of the committee? Ms. Campos?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Pan, for addressing this issue. And I just want to follow up on the concern from the police association. I look, and it's great that we're creating a pathway for small businesses to be able to expand themselves. And in reading the analysis under committee concerns, it does state that the intent of the language is not, this bill does not address the consumption of alcohol and who will determine that. But the individual representing the Police Chief Association brings up a good issue about what it could lead to. So can you address that? How is your bill addressing that? Or
Sure.
if it's not addressing it, is it silent and it's up to each individual cities to determine how they interpret this bill if it moves forward?
So there are safety requirements for allowing alcohol on board. They would only if the bikes adhere to the safety measures outlined in the bill, which includes the addition of a safety monitor on board who has to be at least 21 years old. And you would have to have both a driver and a safety monitor who must have completed the licensee education on alcohol and drugs program implemented by the Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control. And these safety requirements were developed after much discussion with public safety agencies, officials and agencies. And so I think that we did try to address this particular issue and ensure that, first of all, clearly the driver of the pedicab is not allowed to consume alcohol. Neither is the safety monitor. There is a safety monitor on board who has been had to receive education and training to monitor. And again, these are as pedicabs, they're not they're not. And they'll be restricted in terms of the municipality, restricted in terms of routes and location of where they can go, and also that obviously the speed of a pedicab is limited as well, and the municipality can regulate exactly which roads or which routes they can pursue.
And I have a question, a follow-up question for the Police Chiefs Association. So you shared that your concern is that this would allow more consumption in public. Can you explain to us how the bill does not meet the needs of what the association is concerned about?
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
That's why you're sitting there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Campos, for the question. Two things. I would just point out the fact that they're having to put a special safety person on the pedicab who's specifically being trained in drug and alcohol consumption and management tells you right away that there's a problem, that they would even have to do that. Beyond that, I would just answer and say that from what I've been able to observe anecdotally, and this is my own just personal observation, that these pedicabs are used primarily to go bar hopping. And I think what a lot of folks want to be able to do is they want to go to different, maybe a brew pub, for example, and be able to come out with their beer and get on the pedicab. That seems to be the big attraction, is the alcohol. So that's our concern. When safety monitor or no safety monitor, when there's an incident and people get in fights and property damage occurs, they call us. And my clients are the ones that have to come in to restore order and to take the necessary actions. And a number of police chiefs in the state of California have looked at this bill, and they've all come to the same conclusion, that this type of activity combined with the public consumption of alcohol is going to result in a lot of incidents and a lot of trouble. And so that's just the way we see it, Ms. Campos.
Thank you.
Ms. Baker.
I'm good.
Sajjan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Penn, on one hand, it attracts tourism, it's good for the industry, it's all that. I share some of the concerns brought forward, but beyond that, I have another concern, because even though we encourage it emission-free, but it still takes the entire lane to be up and down the road. And the higher the speed on a given lane or road, the more, I'm afraid, it causes road rage, because cars want to go by, especially during rush hours, when even we trying to go someplace, it's always, you hardly move. And so any ideas or any recommendations or to what hours to operate, when to operate, or maybe to address some of the concerns brought forward to us by the Police Chiefs Association, coming out of a bar, maybe no drinks will be allowed on the whatever you chose to call the vehicle.
So one of the things I do want to point out is that we're actually trying to establish some standards here. So it's, as I mentioned in my testimony, these pedicabs already exist in several different cities, including, in fact, serving alcohol on pedicabs as well. So this is not that it's never existed and now we're permitting something that doesn't currently exist. In fact, we're trying to improve the safety standards and putting safety standards in place to ensure the safe operation. Whether it's we're talking about speed or the alcohol, et cetera, I mean, these are already present, and that there's actually regulatory unclarity, and that's the purpose of doing this particular bill. So we were actually trying to elevate the safety standards that are actually absent at this point in time without this particular bill. And in terms of, clearly, obviously, a municipality would be regulating in terms of the routes and so forth. And so, I would assume that the municipality would not be having these pedicabs on roads, especially since they have to actually by law cannot travel in excess of 15 miles an hour in roads where having a vehicle that will be obviously operating underneath that speed would create problems with traffic or create any sort of a road hazard. That's certainly what I would hope the municipality would be certainly taking that consideration in terms of their own statutes. But
I can see it going up the hill 15 miles an hour where the posted speed limit could be 35 or 45. Explain that to the car behind you.
Right. Well, again, as I said, generally municipalities have these operating in highly trafficked or more downtown type areas, and again, that is actually an issue. I would also say is I would trust the judgment of our local municipalities to be able to determine appropriate places for these pedicabs to travel and operate, and knowing their own localities best as well. We're just actually trying to create standards, safety standards overall. So right now, we do have some challenges, where some cities have some lack of clarity. There are other cities that have allowed pedicabs to operate, and currently they are operating right now in places in California. But there is no overall arching safety standards, whether it's safety monitors or other, that actually is in place in the state of California. And that's part of what we're trying to address in this particular bill.
Can you name a city or two so we can call and find out how well it's run?
Actually, if you want
Yes, please. They're currently operating in the cities of San Diego, Palm Springs, Sacramento, Long Beach, and then in Manhattan Beach in Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Bloom.
On your list, which is what I wanted to speak to. And Dr. Pam, thank you for bringing this bill forward. I frankly haven't had an opportunity to speak with my folks back in Santa Monica about this, but what's known as the beach barcicle operates on Main Street. And for those of you who are familiar with Main Street in Santa Monica, it's a highly congested, both with automobiles, pedestrians, and bicycle traffic. It has a bike lane, but it's one vehicular lane travel in each direction. I'm frankly, may not be in the conversations where problems are being identified, but to my knowledge, I haven't heard of issues. I believe that, thinking back to the time when I was on the city council, that I actually was asked to approve this vehicle being out on Main Street, and so it is within, at least currently, within the purview, to my understanding, within the purview of the city and the city council to either allow it or not allow it. And I can promise you, at least in my experience in Santa Monica, if it was creating significant problems, the permit would be yanked pretty quickly, I think. That said, I want to make sure, Dr. Pan, that you're in communication with Santa Monica and that they've thoroughly vetted this. You have my vote today. If I find out that there are problems, I might have to reconsider.
All right. Well, thank you.
Chairman,
So,
I have
excuse me?
a question.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have questions. Ms. Kim.
Oh, okay. Senator Pan, I wanted to ask you about this. I know through this bill, we're trying to establish uniform requirements. And the way I read the bill, it does give the local municipalities the option to opt in, opt out.
Right.
Would you speak to that? And also, the bill also says it excludes pedal bus operators from insurance requirements, but from when you presented the bill, I think I heard that there is all these, the pedal buses would be required to have an insurance requirement. Would you clarify those 2 points for me?
Sure, yes. So basically, again, SB 530 is permissive because a municipality this bill does not require a municipality to license or allow a pedal-powered pedicab in their district. It's up to the municipality to be able to opt in. So that's, again, that final decision is left to the municipality. It's not a mandate to municipalities. It just creates a standard that's been helpful because my city of Sacramento, there's been some confusion. They actually want a standard. That's what they were looking for it. In addition, in terms of the insurance requirement, municipalities do require insurance as part of their licensing requirements, proof of insurance to obtain a business permit in cities. And so we expect that would address that particular issue. However, certainly we can look into that further if that's something that you're concerned about.
Did that address your question?
Sorry. My understanding is from our briefing sessions that is not what was explained to the vice chair's office. Is that correct? Could you further clarify that?
Initially there was oversight when the language was removed from the PUC section of the code. It had explicitly the insurance requirements. When working with the consultants and moving the language over to the vehicle code section, it was omitted because the interpretation by the consultants, and my understanding was that in order to receive a business permit, they would be required to already have liability insurance. So we left that to the discretion of the municipality up to what level of liability insurance would meet the city's needs.